What's up, Starlight Nation? We are live back at you this week for a Sunday night chat. No fancy sales, none of that kind of stuff.
Yes.
We're just going to chat about video games. How does that sound, Billy?
Oh, it sounds like a blast from the past.
Well, I mean, we do talk about retro games, so there you have it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think a lot of our previous sale chats here were having a lot of discussion about a lot of the games and stuff, and it makes sense to give people an opportunity to kind of talk about some of those subjects outside of the context of a sale.
Yeah, yeah, I think this will be good. Howdy, howdy, Bryant. Nice of you to join us. Thank you, my friend. So we're going to do a little discussion. We'll let everyone kind of roll in. Things of note while we get there, we have new stock I dropped off at Homegrown. I'm going to drop off a fancy GameCube. Actually, it's sitting right here in my hand, getting ready to go. It's tested and good. That'll be over there sometime this week.
Is the handle awesome on that?
The handle is
Because
amazing.
that is the
It made
most
it
important feature on that thing.
Nintendo's first portable console. That'll be going over there. I got.
Well, I guess you could technically call the Virtual Boy a portable console because it really wasn't a portable.
It wasn't, but
Because
it
you had to
didn't
put it
hook
on
to
a
your.
table, but you could take it with you though.
Yeah, it didn't hook up to your TV either, though. So
Yeah. It was a TV. I don't know. It was two
yeah,
TVs.
I like to call that the headache machine. That induces migraines.
I never got a chance to try one in the wild. I only got a chance to do like the demos in the like in Toys R Us or what have you when they had a station there. And it was like you had like maybe two games to choose from or something.
Oh yeah, it adjusted too. Like you could adjust the height on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen those kiosks. I have a Virtual Boy, so next time you visit, you know,
I have to knock out the 6 games. I can do the entire library in an afternoon.
I have half the library and I own like 7 games or something. So
Well, I mean, it'd be cool to check out the original Wario game since he sort of, I think he either originated on that or like that. I know it's an exclusive. I forget if Wario Land. Actually, that's probably the second one. I'm guessing because Wario Land or sorry Mario Land 2, sorry Mario Land 3, Wario Land came out first, I think, and then they gave Wario Land its own thing on the Virtual Boy. I think. I think that's the chronology of everything.
yeah, there was a Wario game there. I don't know.
There was the Wario game. There was like I remember there was like a flight shooting game, like kind of vaguely Star Foxy. Um,
Yeah,
and they had some kind of tennis or brick out type of game, I think.
there was tennis. Tennis was one. That was the pack-in. Was tennis.
That's what it was.
Um,
Nintendo kind of chipped away at the tennis thing until they got to work another 12 years later or whatever with
uh,
Wii Sports.
my favorite tennis though was the GameCube, the Mario on GameCube.
Well, they had other tennis games, but for as far as the packing goes,
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true.
there's a
I don't
pinball
know.
game Brian's mentioning too.
Oh yeah, there was pinball. There was a bunch. The Water World, I think, is like the most expensive one. I have the cheapos that got traded into the shop. So
I'm trying to remember if there was a there's one game that's like it was a first party game that was actually done by Miyamoto, but I'm trying to remember if it was on the Game Boy or the Virtual Boy. But it's sort of like a very obscure title for them. But I think like the title was like something like, it was something like Red Alert or something like that. So maybe just the fact that it's red is in the title is confusing me with the red and black graphics of the Virtual Boy.
that's all it was. Oh, terrible. Yeah, some kid years ago, I don't know, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, came into the shop trying to quiz bowl me on retro video games, and I bet you don't have this. I bet you don't have that. And every time I shut him down, and finally he goes, you know what? You have all this cool stuff, but I bet 100%. I know you don't have a Virtual Boy. I said, hold that thought, buddy. And his dad's
I
laughing.
mean, they weren't exactly obscure. I
No,
mean,
and so
it's not like they made
so I
five
walk,
of them before it got canceled out or whatever.
yeah.
It's like
So I walk it. I walk in the back room. I grab my Virtual Boy, and it was sitting just on top of the fridge we had for for our drinks and snacks and stuff. And I bring it out, put it on the counter. It's in this little red bag that I had, and I start pulling out the pieces and parts. And then I start setting it up. He goes, whoa, 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 that's a Virtual Boy. I was like, yeah, that's a Virtual Boy. He goes, what are you doing? I'm like, dude, I'm setting it up. You're playing it. And he kind of looks at his dad like, save me. I was like, no, no, no. You've been quizzing me now here for the last like 30
So
minutes.
wait,
You're playing this.
So this dude,
Enjoy your headache.
this dude pulls out like the "I bet you don't have a Virtual Boy" thing and doesn't even like know like any experience, like anything about like setting it up or anything like that, whatever. Like it's
Like
it's like,
12-year-old
I
kid.
bet you don't have a Virtual Boy. What is that? Bring me to
Yeah.
your strange new land.
No, he, the kid that had only
Is
seen
this
things on the
magic?
internet. Yeah. What is this sorcery?
No,
You
it's like that.
people?
It's like that. The anime meme or whatever, where I have to get my camera angle here, or whatever. Is this Virtual Boy?
We'll edit that in later
Yeah,
in post production.
I wish I had a graphic of that. If we were talking Virtual Boy, I could have dragged that over there. We'll talk about that next time, I guess.
Yeah.
I
didn't expect
the
us to
top
talk-
5 and only 5 games of the Virtual Boy.
Well, someone did on YouTube a top 13 of Virtual Boy games, and I'm like, oh, that's funny because there was only 13 games released.
It'd be funny, even funnier if he just did top 12 and was just being like a jerk to like that one game. It's like, no, you're not even being included. Like,
yeah. Tennis, we can't have you
like
here.
that one game's like, this is my moment, finally. 12. No. But but yeah, I like how he pulls out the Virtual Boy as if it's like I said, it's something so obscure. It's not like he's like asking you for like the PlayStation extension prototype for the SNES or something like that. You know, it's like,
right.
It's like, I bet you don't have that the rocket firing Boba Fett backpack action figure.
Yeah, right.
Wait 1 second, actually.
7 made in the world or something. Yeah, like no. Oh, that's funny.
It's like, you didn't say Power the Force 1. Boom, Power the Force 2.
Definitely had some good times at this store. Good stories from back then. All right, so let's get into it. We got a handful of watchers. Bryant is here and commenting. Jack Bros, yeah, Jack Bros. That was the name. That's an expensive one too. I don't have that one either. If I had known, man, my Virtual Boy games are right behind me. I could have grabbed them. I had them in my hands today. All 7 of them. They fit like you just grab them. But so what we've done tonight is Billy's gone through kind of his collection and thoughts, and I've gone through mine, and we've selected 5 games each for the Nintendo, the original Nintendo, and the Game Boy. And we're going to sit and talk the original Game Boy, right?
Yeah, no Game Boy Color games.
No Game Boy Color, no Game Boy Advance. Original Game Boy only. We'll talk about those. We have a couple. I accidentally may have picked an extra 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games on the NES. It's really hard to pick on the NES.
5.
Yeah, 5 extras.
I could have sworn my message said 3, but I guess
your message did say 3. I do have three on the Game Boy. Okay.
Okay.
All right. I followed the rules for the Game Boy, but I'm not so. I could have picked another 100 games on the NES that I would like to talk about. Like that system was just way ahead of its time and phenomenal. So.
Well, we'll start off with the NES then, because this way it'll give you ample time to get through your extra picks and such. And
no, I'll be good. Well, they're honorable mentions, so
right.
I'll just honorably mention them, and we'll move along.
All right. Well, let's start off with where am I thinking here? We got Nintendo, and then it should pop up in a second here. Boom, number 5.
Look at that! Now you're playing with power. Yes. Huh? Fancy.
And can you pick out the 5?
I don't know if I can pick out the 5.
Okay. As we go through the numbers, you might see the pattern form.
Okay. Zelda 2.
Well, there was no numbered Zelda 5, so
okay.
They stopped numbering them after Link to the Past, I think, or something.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay.
Well, I mean, I think they still like when the Game Boy one came out. Which, by the way, we're generally not including some of the main Super Mario Brothers and Zelda games just because that would take up a top 10 in of themselves.
Oh yeah, so I didn't pick any Super Mario. I didn't pick Zelda. I didn't pick Donkey Kong. Like I stayed away from all those amazing first party titles on purpose. So I think you did too, right?
For the most part, I may have cheated a little bit here or there, but
okay,
not as much as you cheated with your count, so it's even.
All right. So, all right. Do you want to go first?
Sure. Let's hear it. I didn't have these in any particular order, even though I have the countdown numbers there, but just because I like my numbers.
Me neither. So then we're even on that.
Yeah. So some of these are, these aren't any of them like the mainline Nintendo series ones, but I'm sure people have played quite a few of these. But I'm going to start off with one that I know pretty much everyone has probably played if they had an NES, and that is down, 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 Battletoads.
Oh, dude, I had it in my hand. I was like, this is too mainstream. I can't do it. Nope.
I
I
know.
had
So
that
like
literally.
I tried to like not pick out too obscure of title with the NES ones, just because there's so many ones, and like really, there's only so much you could say about Fester's Quest. Yeah, I played a lot of Fester's Quest back then. I don't know if I'm gonna put it in my top five though.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like, although I do kind of want to play that game now, actually. But hey, no, we're gonna stick to here with Battletoads because, Battletoads co-op classic. It was one of the early games from Rare. I think they may have been underneath their earlier name at the time. I have to double check the what you call it, but I'm pretty certain. But it was still Rare, which is one of the reasons why it hasn't really been on a Nintendo console lately, and was included in like I think the Rare Replay
It was
package.
on Xbox. Yep.
Yeah, on the Xbox or whatever, with like 29 other games. But yeah, I
Let's see.
mean,
Google knows everything. Let's see.
but
See
yeah, I
what
mean,
they.
Battletoads. You had, I mean, it is probably one of the top three hardest games ever. Like the difficulty in that game is ridiculous, and but yet I think everyone fell in love with it because you only ended up playing maybe three levels out of it before you got to that speeder bike level or
I,
what have you. And only a handful of probably people on the planet have ever actually managed to do that without spending a
I
little too much time than was necessary.
I don't think I made it past the speeder bike level until you got a Game Genie.
Oh yeah, no, that was my next point. Like it was really like that one of those. It was the game, a Game Genie game. Like there was no way you were. Most of us mere mortals at that age at the time were going to be getting past that speeder bike level. So you use the level skip to check out what the rest of the game held, and only to find out that the other levels were just as hard.
Yep.
In
Yeah, it was
fact,
pretty.
I believe I even read that even if you got to one of the later levels, like second to last or third to last or something, like it's literally impossible to beat it if you're playing co-op mode because for whatever reason I guess the other person keep dying or blocks you or something. I'd have to look up the specifics on that again, but I remember reading that they say co-op mode there's kind of a bug in the game, you can't beat it.
Oh,
Only one player
that's insane.
can get through that. So it's but I mean just going back to the games that everyone levels that everyone did play without having to use a Game Genie to modify, you have just in that first level alone so much. Not only did you have the basic attacks with the transformations like the giant fist or the boot or what have you,
I love those. Yep.
but you had you could friendly fire your player two or player one.
That led to some interesting battles between us. I remember. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah,
You
would.
hit me, all right. Hit me back, all right. Come on.
Hey, wait! You have a pipe. Stop hitting my corpse. Which again, being able to pick up items and either throw them or attack enemies and or the other player with, to even being able to stun that flying creature and take it as a ride and shoot fire. I mean, that's a lot of options for an NES game in particular. I mean, that's a pretty good level skill set for something in the SNES era and beyond, let alone 8-bit. So they pack quite a bit into that game, and then you think about the level of number of frames and animation and variations thereof, and going to levels like the speeder bike and the second level with the where you can turn into like the wrecking ball and stuff, where you're basically just scaling down a vertical chasm. A lot in that game. Great music. Way too hard, but I think it's something that really made an impression on everyone who played it. I mean, it's basically it is one of those top 5 NES games. Really, I mean, I don't think anyone's going to really
No, and in
argue
fact,
about against its inclusion. It really is one of those touchstones that almost everyone had at that time because it really kind of just took out the gate that way, despite the difficulty compared to other difficult games at the time. Like I think like only like maybe Ninja Gaiden would be considered harder, but only because of how brutal those last 3 levels are, setting you back if you die once or what have you. So
yeah, it is one of the most requested games at the shop as well. I mean, to this day, people still searching out Battletoads, and it definitely commands a premium over some of the other stuff that we sell. So,
and it's coming back. They did. I think it was last E3. They announced a little teaser for a new one coming out in the Xbox.
That'll be cool. Hopefully, it's
So
just as difficult as that one. Make these kids suffer.
hopefully it's just a good game. I mean, difficulty's fine. I imagine they'll probably tone it down for a modern audience, which is fine because we would have used the option back then if we had it too. So, but hopefully it's
We didn't have
not.
tutorials back then,
Yeah,
so
hopefully it's just not half-assed is all it is. You don't want it to you know be just a copy cash in on the franchise. Make it be a good game.
yep.
So, what do you have
All right, let's see.
on your list?
Bag of tricks here. I actually have some cartridges here that I can show.
Yes. Yeah, mine,
Let's see.
mine's,
This one.
mine's are unfortunately are all in storage right now, buried. I don't have anything past the N64 or past the SNES available to me, so it's sorry prior to the N64 is what I meant to say. Sorry. Go ahead.
This one, I love this one. Platformer. Anyone who knows me knows I love platformers, especially when it comes to the NES. This one is actually loosely based on Ronald McDonald and McKids. So you can play as, I don't remember their names. We used to always call them the black kid and the white kid. I don't know if that's racist now or not, but and you would tag off when it was the other player's turn. It was super cool. You were helping Ronald collect the M cards. You had to go through the levels. You could run on ceilings. That was probably the craziest part of that whole game was you could jump, and then you jump on these. There were, I don't know, just little
They were like.
platforms.
Well, you mean like when you actually did the gravity change? There was like a
Yeah,
little
yeah, the
ramp
things.
or something that let you kind
Yeah,
of
had
like.
this little spigot thing on the end of the platform, and you'd run real fast, and it'd throw you underneath.
Yeah.
The craziest thing about that game that I remember is the first time I played it. I didn't play this until college. It was when I got introduced to it. I didn't have a lot of NES games as a kid, but um, when you die, there's actually holes in the ceiling as you're running along the ceiling, and you can go up and die up, like you just running up. Oh shoot! All right, now I'm dead. Like that was mind-boggling to me. Just the fact that you could run on the ceiling and then die going up because your gravity got reversed when you hit that little spigot thing. Then you have to get down and do it again.
That whole part really made an impression because you introduced me to this game about I want to say what about 15 years ago, 12 years ago,
Oh,
somewhere in that range, whatever.
yeah, you were down visiting in Florida or something.
Yeah. And like we brought that game out, and I was like, I had never heard of this game, and then we play it, and structurally the game is basically like a Super Mario World type of clone in a way, which is impressive in itself, really, in terms of how the structure and stuff is. But the gravity mechanics really caught my eye on that one. I was like, again, because you could die upward and you just
Yep.
double over in laughter. Like I just died falling up.
Right.
It kind of reminded me of the old was it in the 80s the Santa Claus the movie where they had the candy canes that they were selling that could make people float and fly, and the bad guy ended up eating too many to escape the cops, and he ended up floating up into space. I was like, ah.
Yep. Another cool thing about that was it had that overworld map like Mario 3 did. Not a lot of games had that back then. It just kind of took you linearly, like Mario 1 and 2 is very linear.
Mm.
You go World 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, and then you move on to the next. Well, with this one, you had a map where you had 6 or 7 or 8 different options. And in this one, different from Mario 3, you could actually select which one you wanted to go to. You could skip levels altogether and just go past them. It didn't matter. So that was a pretty cool mechanic. You just had to collect so many of those M cards and then bring them back to Ronald, and then you move on to the next.
Yeah, that's what it kind of reminded me of Mario World in a way, is because it had that world map beyond the actual platforming sections. So it kind of had scaled back. It was somewhere between Mario 3 and Mario World, but
Yeah.
they managed to. It was actually kind of I mean, I don't want to say impressive, but it was being able to take that amount of mechanic from Mario World and translate it to the NES in of itself was more than would probably have been required at the time. So for a caching game, they did a good amount of effort into it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
All right, let's see here.
See what you got for number 4.
Okay, first we go up to our NES number 4. Okay, so the next one I have up, another co-op game, Chippendale's Rescue Rangers.
Ah,
Yeah. Now, yes.
There he is.
Sometimes some crimes go
Oh yeah,
slipping
love
through the
Chippendales.
cracks, but these two gumshoes. All right, I won't sing anymore. I might sing a little bit more, but anyways, the uh, Capcom had an incredible run with the Disney license in the 80s and early 90s
Yep.
across the NES and SNES platforms
Yeah.
and Genesis too. But it's hard to narrow down some of those titles, but I think this one just stood out because of the co-op at the time. I never personally owned it, but I rented it like so often. Like it was one of those things you just rented it so much, and you could get relatively far into the game. Like, it wasn't a very difficult game once you played it for a bit.
Not like
So
the other ones.
yeah, I think the second one was supposed to be a little more challenging. I only played
The
that.
second one is definitely more challenging and a
Yeah,
lot more rare too.
yeah.
Much more expensive.
I
So
didn't get to play that one too much, but I recall from testing it from like maybe 10 whatever years ago that it was had a little more challenge in its bag there. But yeah, the co-op mechanic I thought was pretty good. You have a lot of lifting and throwing gameplay mechanics involved in it, and Brian's a fan of it as well. Yeah, it was really quite tip top
oh, it's
the
great.
point there. I mean, if you compare it to some of the other Disney Afternoon related titles that came out, I mean, DuckTales is another classic, but that one was particularly hard. So, and I think a little since it came, I think first even of all these titles for the most part, it was a little less refined in some regards and a lot more open. I mean, Chippendales was a little more linear, for better or for worse, but I think that helped balance out the difficulty. Uh, Tailspin was less known, I think. I think we played that as testing a cartridge one time. It seemed okay, but it wasn't like it didn't stand out as much as
Yeah,
the
it's
other
alright.
ones, though. And then Darkwing Duck was another one that like maybe not as many people played because it came out towards the end of the NES life cycle.
That game was hard.
But that was cool because that was basically a Mega Man game. So
Right.
and it's Capcom, so it's Capcom making a Mega Man clone with Darkwing Duck. So that's like
Yep.
a winning formula there for that. So
Let's get dangerous.
yeah, I have to,
Can you tell I'm a fan? I mean, like I love the Disney
do you
attributes.
do you have all those characters? Because I think I saw something where I'm like I have to get all those characters somehow.
I have some. Like I got Scrooge.
Okay, there you go. Have you got a chance to watch any of the new Ducktales? By the way,
No, I heard it's really good
it
though.
is really good. Like I just watched like the Christmas episodes I had sitting on my TiVo, and it's like I'm like, wow, okay. They even worked in like the ghosts of Christmas past and stuff from versions of them from the original Mickey's Christmas Carol because Scrooge McDuck was in
Nice.
that. But anyways, so yeah, so Chippendales, like I said, I think stood out, and then they went on to have some success after that on the like other platforms with like Lion King and particularly Aladdin, which I heard the Genesis version was actually better, but I actually was really
Way
fond
better.
of the Super Nintendo version. I played that one quite a bit.
Way better on Genesis.
I
Yeah,
don't.
I own both of them, but
Really, I have to do a
yeah,
side by
much
side
prefer
comparison one day because
Genesis.
I never got a chance to play the Genesis version, and it was like I just remember the SNES one being flowing pretty well, and it sort of tied into when Super Return of the Jedi came out, and you had the levels with Wicket, the Ewok, and he had a lot of
Yeah,
the same kind of swinging around the pole mechanics or whatever. I was like, oh, it's like Aladdin, or this is like the Ewok level. I forget which one came out first, which one I played first, but uh
yeah. In fact,
oh.
I just completed that Disney Capcom collection on NES last year. Finally got the last game I needed for it, which was Darkwing Duck. Ironically, I had Chippendale 2 and DuckTales 2 before I had Darkwing Duck.
Looking at Brian's comment here, I don't know. Do you want to give him a hint of anything
Um,
if we need to
please,
secure our tables or
Brian, Brian, I'm going to secure my table. I'll bolt it to the ground because I got bad news for you, buddy.
yeah, unfortunately, I really want to include it in there, but I honestly somehow I've never got a chance to play that one. Like
It's so good.
I know, like I have like the Nintendo Power issue, and I have like I've always wanted to like I've seen like the comic books, like I had the original comic books when we had the store. I had like the original collection, the comics that the game was based on. So I'm like, oh, it's like that NES game. Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm gonna play that game at some point. But yeah, no, I may have rented it once, but it's like it's just so hard though because I remember I just didn't have access to it because I didn't own it, and I think just the stores I had access to at the time just didn't have it available for rent. And that back then that was sort of your only means of access in the game, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So it's
And for a Super Nintendo guy, Bryant picked a good one out of his hat. So
well, I mean, Dream
it's
Master
definitely a
was
good game.
NES, so I mean, it's
Yeah. Well,
but
I'm
yeah,
saying he collects Super Nintendo Bryant specifically, so he definitely knows his stuff when it comes to the
yeah. I
NES
mean,
stuff too.
I don't. I'm not going to argue, that it wouldn't be included possibly. I might have even put that in there in place of Chip and Dale in some ways because I think I've seen some clips of it and stuff. I know it's Capcom and it's one of those premium or
It's
ones
really
they
good.
put out there. So yeah, I can't. I wouldn't argue someone including it on their list, but I can't make a good. Unfortunately, I can't. I want to make sure I was including games I first of all played obviously, but also ones that I owned or at least heavily rented, so it was near ownership or could borrow it from a friend or what have you. So oh, good. Our tables are secure.
Oh,
Our
sweet. Okay.
all right.
Um,
So what do you
it's
got for
really
number
hard to
four?
get down to five on the NES. I mean, really hard. I try not to pick like the stupid expensive ones. Like I didn't pick Chip and Dale 2 or DuckTales 2, or even one of my personal favorites, uh, Little Samson. So, I try to leave the real expensive ones off. I have one expensive one. I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do. But this one, no list is complete without sports games. Okay, there has to be at least one sport game on it. Mine has two. I'm sorry it had to happen because both the best baseball and the best football game ever made are on this system right here. There's nothing I can do. So we'll go with the best football game of all time. There it is. Bo knows football and he knows Tecmo Super Bowl. Okay. If if you haven't played it by now, you're living under a rock. They remake it every year with all the updated rosters. There's a group out there that does it. It's awesome. You can find them on Facebook. One year I will actually buy one, but they're like $60. And I have the OGs, so I don't know that I really need it. So it's a want more than a need. But I always play as the Eagles, and I always run the same stupid play. So I'm usually good until whoever I'm playing against, if I'm playing a two-player game, figures out what play I'm running. Then I have to start mixing it up. It usually takes them about 3 quarters to get there. Uh, the computer, though, I don't understand why they don't figure it out sooner
Well, that's
because
actually
I
kind of
just
funny
run.
because real life football doesn't really ever get good to the third or fourth quarter anyway. So it really that's when the game starts.
Yeah.
It'd be funny actually if
So
that's what happens in real life. Oh my god, they've been playing the same play for the first 3 quarters. All right,
So
sorry, go ahead.
I don't know how much experience you have with this game, but like I played the
I
heck out of
I
it as a kid.
owned Tecmo Bowl, but not Tecmo Super Bowl. My
I
dad
like
got me. My
this
dad got me that one. At the time, though, I didn't really understand football, though. So, like, I played a little bit of it, but it never really got a lot of heavy play. I didn't really know how to read the plays and all that stuff, and didn't really watch football on TV or anything like that. So I didn't really have that familiarity with the sport. So,
That's why I always pick the same play. You just master how to run that one play.
yeah. I mean, I think we did two-player mode at some point, but it'd be like you're kind of figuring it out as you went along, kind of thing, but never really grabbed me like some other things. And
Yeah.
I'll get to a why probably when we get to your other choice that I suspect is coming.
um, that game was phenomenal, and they had the license from the NFL, which was nice, but not all the players signed on, which made it kind of comical, especially on the Eagles, because the quarterback at the time, Randall Cunningham, wouldn't allow them to use his likeness. And by likeness, I really just mean name,
Yeah.
because you can't really tell who the person is. It's 8-bit, not like today's Madden games. But so instead of naming him Randall Cunningham because he didn't sign away the rights to his name, they named him QB Eagles. So every time I scored a touchdown with him, it was QB Eagles.
It'd be funny if they just changed the first letter or whatever. Are you playing as Bo? No, I'm playing as Ro. I guess they couldn't get Bo, so
Yeah.
Ro knows. It's like Scooby Doo, whatever it is.
Yep. So anyway, best football game of all time, hands down. And if you want to argue with me, I'll fight you.
All right. So we'll go on to our third choices now. I'll take number 4 off, and we're going to put number 3 up. Boom. You don't recognize the numbers yet?
Oh, I recognize them.
All right. So,
I want to see the 3 that I got it. I'm pegged on that.
Yeah, no, that's the most obvious one, I think. The next one I got coming up, and this one's like everyone played this, so I'm not even gonna put too much into this one, but it's like Contra. I mean, it's like the I mean, like I said, I had a lot of co-op games on here, but then that was the co-op game. Just I remember third grade with my friend Ron Joy. This is before I knew you. Uh, the days after school was we're gonna spend 30 or 40 minutes after school. We're gonna beat Contra and then we'll go play outside. Just gotta make sure you get that Konami code in there. But that was part of the routine. And I mean, between the music, the way the controls have some of the unforgiving difficulty, but the Konami code helped iron that out, and which is why it's so ingrained in the pop culture consciousness for all time. Up, down, down, left, right, A, B, select, start for 2 players, and
Yep. Our local brewery named a beer after it called the Contra Code.
yes,
They had it initially with all the buttons to press, but people didn't understand it, so I was kind of disappointed. So they changed it to the Contra Code.
yeah. Well, it used to be. It was known as the Contra code, and yeah, Brian, you got it right. Yep, the numbers are coming out of the NES Mega Man series, the box art at least, because the actual title screen is still used Roman numerals and such.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean Contra. You had that code went in there as people used to call it the Contra code, but then it wider became known as the Konami code because it actually worked on several other games that they made at the time. So yeah, I mean, there's not a lot more you could say about Contra. That I think everyone has almost universally had some kind of experience with that game. Although hilariously, I think we even talked about this at one point where they had the Teens React channel on YouTube. They did a Teens React to Contra thing, and the dude behind the camera, the one who just hands them the cartridge or whatever, it's like and talks to them. Yeah, he talks about it saying it's known to be one of the hardest games ever made, and I'm like, no, it's not. Again, I beat that in an afternoon when I was in third grade. Granted, I used a cheat code, but it's not like it was even with 3 lives, you can still get a decent amount of way into that game, whatever, after you played it enough. But it was nowhere near it wasn't even the hardest game on that system, let alone of all time.
Battletoads was way harder than that game.
Battletoads, Ninja Gaiden, Zelda 2. I mean, the hits keep coming.
Yep.
But yeah, no way is that one of the hardest games of all time. It's challenging, but but still, it's not difficult. Like it's not hard. I wouldn't call it hard. Super C is hard because even the Konami code only gives you 10 codes in that one. So,
Yep.
so yeah, that's my number 3 because I don't think we have to talk too much more about Contra. I think unless you got anything else you want to add to it, other than box art that features clearly what's supposed to be Arnold Schwarzenegger from Predator and Sylvester Stallone from Rambo with different heads on them or whatever. But
Yeah. No, I mean everyone knows what Contra is. If that's not self-explanatory,
well,
I don't
actually,
know
no.
what
Actually,
is.
if anyone's watching in the UK or what have you, it'd be I think it's Probotector.
Yeah, they called it something
Yeah, I think
different.
it's Probotector. So now, but they probably
Yep.
know that the name is different elsewhere. But
Okay. Mine, my next one is the little thing called Blaster Master. I try to go a little more obscure with this. This is a solid $15 game or so. I mean, nothing too expensive, but enjoyable. You get to shimmy between being a person and a tank. There's an overworld. You can crawl down ladders and go into the underworld, the sewer area, or whatever, however you want to look at it. It's enjoyable. It's an overhead side scroller thing. Just all around fun game to play. Have you played that one too much?
only a little bit, but interestingly enough, it was the last game I purchased for the NES that I was able to get in the box, and I still have the box. Like I only still have I think 3 of my original NES boxes, and that's one of them because that was towards the end where I'm like, oh, I'm gonna start saving these.
Hmm.
At least I had just started saving my SNES boxes or what have you. So
Yeah.
the Blast Master was one of the ones I had that. I didn't play it too much because it is a difficult game.
Sorry.
I won't say it's hard, but it wasn't it definitely has a challenge curve to it. I've been wanting to revisit it because I think they just put it up on the Switch recently on the Nintendo Online, and
It's there. Yeah, I saw
yeah,
it there yesterday.
and they did a a remaster, reloaded re-release or something within the last few years as well. So yeah, I think that's one of the ones that started to get a little bit more of a cult hit reputation. Like I don't know if it was ever considered to be a core NES title, but I think people have generally respected it and started. They tried to push it a little bit more and more over the years. I think.
Yeah, super enjoyable game. Really fun.
Okay, so number two.
Number two.
Okay, so I've got now I'm getting away from a co-op on this one, but I got Paperboy. Again,
I almost picked that.
yeah, it's hey, it's not a it's not an obscure game. Again, it's another one of these that people played. Pretty much everyone played it. It has multiplayer. It's not co-op, but it's versus or turn take your turns
Turn
kind of
based.
thing. Yeah,
Yep.
but yeah, I mean that got a lot of play. I mean that it was surprisingly addictive and brought in a lot of strangeness to the neighborhood. Like
We
from all the
played a
things
lot
that
of
would
that.
chase you, from the Jason,
Tornadoes.
yeah, tornadoes, Jason, the lady with the rolling pin, which I always thought was a knife.
I thought she was a witch.
I thought she was coming at you with like a carving knife or something, but it was actually like like a roll, like a a rolling pin or something. But yeah,
Dog would
you had a
chase you.
Jason, the dog, the car, remote control car, which is those are always the biggest pain. You're like, ah, and then you had a random
How about
stunt course at the end, which
yeah,
every
and
neighborhood has, for your bikes.
yeah, the guy that was breakdancing in the middle of the
Yeah,
sidewalk.
yeah, yeah,
So I
yeah.
mean, super 80s right there.
Well, as things happen, you're driving along and some dude just breakdancing your way and doesn't stop to get
Yeah,
out of your way. He's like, "What's this guy gonna do? Run me over? I'm breakdancing here." It's not like I'm. It's not. I'm walking here. I'm breakdancing here. I'm breakdancing here. So yeah. So like I said, just that was it was very. I think it had a lot of popular appeal to it. I mean, I think that's something that I think in my for our generation, a lot of times our parents didn't really get the NES games as much as we did. Like even if they were more the arcade Atari era, and I think Paperboy was one of the ones that still kind of grabbed their attention, which probably makes sense because it was also an arcade game. So there probably some kind of common DNA that made it attractive in that regards and stuff. So I think it was a good kind of. I don't say it's a party game, but it was a good one for when you had company over too.
yep. Okay, I'll do the expensive one. I'll save the best for last. I think you know what I'm saving for last too, because you know this one. Well, that's shiny. Okay,
I was say it's shiny.
yeah, I
That's
have
the
it in a
shiny
protector
Pokemon.
case. This is my expensive one in the bunch. I have it in this fancy little case to protect it. I don't want it to get dusty or ruined or anything. This one is called Metal Storm. To hold it this way, I guess.
Yeah,
Here, can you read it now?
yeah, it's a cool little logo. I
Yeah,
haven't played this one.
dude, this game is phenomenal. It's a mech game. So you're like this little mech warrior Gundam type suit guy thing, and just roll around and blow stuff up. I mean, doesn't get much better than that.
Side scroller, I assume.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, golly, it's been a long time since I've played it, but it's probably been a year and a half since I popped it in. But yeah, super enjoyable game. Just in this mech suit, walking around and blowing things up. I don't know how better to describe it than that. It's more on the uncommon range. It was a late run game. It was lower produced numbers. It's in the $120 range for the cart. At least last I checked. I haven't been keeping up on prices too much lately, but definitely worth checking out, especially if you can get it on a virtual console or something. I don't know if it's out and around or not, but uh,
I don't know if it came. Definitely, I don't think it came out on the Wii U's Virtual Console. It's definitely not up on the Switch Online yet because that's still got a very limited selection. But they've been expanding it every now and then. Uh, if it was out on anything, it would have had to have been the Wii's Virtual Console, which is just
it's
went
all
off
gone now.
all gone now. But I mean, I don't know. But then again, there was a lot on the Wii Virtual Console, so if you hadn't heard of something, sometimes it was difficult to look to find it. I don't. It doesn't sound familiar, so I'm gonna say maybe not.
Yeah, it probably hasn't come out. It's one of the more obscure games of the system, that's for sure. But it's worth it. It was a lot of fun. Man, last time I popped in, I probably sat down for
Who's
two or
the
three hours.
the publisher or the whatever on there?
IREM America Corp.
AmeriCorp? Is it AmeriCorp or AmeriCorp?
IREM, IREM,
Hmm.
IREM America Corp.
We'd have to probably look into seeing who, if anyone, if they're still active in some way, because that would probably be the help give you an indicator of if you're going to see it pop up on anything. Because so far the majority of the stuff on Switch Online's been like first party stuff or ones that have like still from active publishers. So
Yeah, well, I'm guessing it's easiest for them to get the rights to that stuff.
yeah. Oh, sorry, I gotta turn this fan on here. It's gonna get warm up here.
And away he goes, vanish. Look at that, the magic work.
There we go. Sorry.
All right, before we get to number one, let me do my 17 honorable mentions. I'm literally going to space these really, really, really fast. Okay. Qbert, arcade classic. Can't go wrong. Everyone knows what that game is. My absolute favorite and the only good game made by LJN, Jaws.
Good game.
Don't start with me.
It was a game. I played it.
It was good.
I enjoyed it. I don't know if it was good
fun.
though.
It was good. All right. Super Dodgeball. There's actually a dodgeball game on Game Boy Advance. That's the clone of this. That's really fun. Yeah. The ultimate version of Tetris. Tengen Tetris.
Yes.
Tengen. People say it different. This actually had 2-player mode on it, which none of the other Tetrises at the time did. So.
Yeah, I almost included a black card in my honorable mentions, being unless it's the next one coming up, it'd be Afterburner.
No, it's not. No.
Okay, all
actually,
right.
I have that. I have this entire collection now. I just finished this like 6 months ago, so super excited about that.
Afterburner was pretty sweet.
I forget the last game I got for that was Tubin, I think.
Yo, Jonathan, nice to have you join us.
Right, and then the ultimate in arcade fun, North versus South, because sometimes everyone wants a little Civil War.
Did we played this one, right? Like,
yes, we did. Yes,
oh my
it's
God.
Amazing.
It's
love that game.
It's like a turn-based strategy.
Basically, yeah, you attack and you got horses and cannons and like little infantry guys, and I always run my horses into the river because I don't know how to control them to get them over the bridge.
I also, if I recall correctly, too, that also like is one where like the cover art does not really correspond to the
not even close.
The game. Like the game is actually kind of serious, but it's got these freaking cartoony guys.
Yep, cartoony guys. But yeah, it's like an RTS type. It's so much fun.
It's the Civil War for kids.
It is. It's Civil War for kids. There you go. Yeah. You too can fight slavery, kids.
Yes.
Okay, there's my honorable mentions. Let's do your.
Oh, you got to free the slaves last time.
Gray is my favorite color.
Yeah. Oh. All right. Okay, so for honorable, I'll do honorable mentions too, also, because the next one's also okay. So I know I'm gonna skip one that I know I'm almost positive is your number one, but I have Top Gun: The Second Mission, which was
that game is surprisingly good.
Yeah, no, I mean it had a split screen 2-player mode, which was pretty good for like a flight sim, action combat, type of game. So that actually was pretty. Got to some pretty intense multiplayer modes. You just had to play with the one rule tweak because there was a design glitch or what have you in the game where I believe player 1 always started the match directly in the lock-in sights of player 2. So if player 2 fired their missiles right away at the beginning of every match, they would win every single time. It might have been the other way around, player 1 targeting player 2, but it was one of those. And so you always had to play the rule of, okay, you can't fire for 3 seconds so that everyone has a fair shot of trying to...
time to turn, yeah.
Yeah, because otherwise it's not a game. It's just, you're just shooting me down each time. I know, and it's hilarious! But, so yeah, I have Top Gun 2 in the second mission. I've got Disney's Adventures in the Magic Kingdom. I'm sure my sister will say technically it was her game, but no.
Yeah, we played the heck out of that at your house. I remember.
Yeah, no, I mean it's a great. I actually never even beat it, but like it was another Game Genie game in a way. Like a lot of the game was accomplishable without Game Genie, but some of the best levels were actually enhanced by having Game Genie cheats involved. Because the structure of the game was you have the Magic Kingdom, you have different rides, and each ride is a different type of game. So Space Mountain will be sort of this first-person dodge the asteroid type of thing. They give you warnings and stuff. It's almost like a rhythm game in a way. Then you'd have like a top-down Big Thunder Mountain kind of race thing where you're trying to avoid boulders and get on the correct tracks through these paths and avoid obstacles. You have the speedway with the race cars, but then you'd have in particular the Haunted Mansion and Pirates of the Caribbean, which was a side scroller platformer. And you had a sort of dude in a. He was dressed like he was from Australia. I mean, he was like Crocodile Dundee the Kid or whatever with the hat and he looked like what was his name? The animal, the Australian animal catcher guy who died from the stingray.
Steve Irwin.
Yeah, Steve Irwin. He looked like Steve Irwin. Like he had that, like the same getup or whatever and stuff. But you would go through and you would throw candles. I guess like you go through the Haunted Mansion, you could collect candles and you could attack the ghosts that came at you and stuff. But the thing is, you had like 6 candles or something like that, and like you could only get like a little bit of replenishment. And with games, you could get like unlimited ammo and like some extra lives, and then that level became more balanced. Still really hard to beat, but it became a lot more fun. And likewise, Pirates of the Caribbean, again, you had unlimited ammo and other types of jumps and stuff, and it just made the game so much more fun. But yeah, so that was a cool little one on the side as well. So, all right, so let's go ahead
and then the one that you probably already have figured out that's my number one.
And I know I know yes, there was never a 1 on the Mega Man box, but I had to make a 1 somehow, so I took a 2 and I split it in half. Anyway, go ahead. So you can go ahead.
All right.
Or actually,
I don't have my.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, let me take mine first because I think yours is cooler.
Okay.
So I'm gonna do. I have down as Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game.
That's a good one.
Because again, we're going back to the co-op again, but you think back to this day, like there was a lot of arcade ports, but this was probably for the NES, like one of the best arcade ports. I mean, Contra was a port, or Double Dragon was a port. So Paperboy was a port. Yeah, so like, a lot of them were pretty close and stuff. But I mean, Turtles the Arcade game is one of those games where it didn't seem like you could get it on the NES, especially after seeing the original Turtles game on the NES and how different it was from that type of game. I mean, I still have a soft spot for the original Turtles game also, but I never got too far on that one. But I got past the dam and the water though, so again, difficult games. I got past that part. It was the street mazes and stuff with the sewers that always backed me up. But anyways, yeah, the arcade game, get that co-op mode in there, the graphics, the gameplay. The Turtles 3 later on basically took that as its structure. Pretty much every Turtles game kind of springs off of this. You know, Turtles 4, the Turtles in Time in the SNES, same kind of style. I mean, the arcade game itself was similar, so that makes sense. And yeah, I mean, just fun beat 'em up game. I mean, it basically took some of the best parts of Double Dragon and I guess Final Fight, Streets of Rage, those types of games. I mean, those games I think may have came later, but you know, it still had that brawling street type of vibe to it and stuff. And yeah, it was just cool to have like the cartoons sort of come to life in a way.
Yep.
All right.
Are you ready for the moment of truth? I don't have the cart. I don't know where it went. It's probably in my Nintendo, to be totally honest, because I play this game so much. Whenever the Nintendo's hooked up, this game goes in it. It's got a yellow cover, and it is the best baseball game ever made of all time. I'm talking, of course, about Baseball Stars. There is absolutely nothing better than that game. Seriously, you introduced me to it. In fact, we must have been in 5th grade, 6th grade.
Yep.
And it was made by SNK, and they were going through their bankruptcy trouble, so they weren't shipping new games to the vendors anymore. And so we went to Toys R Us. I'll never forget this. We went to Toys R Us to buy the thing, and Toys R Us didn't have any more copies. And so we went and asked the manager, like, well, we're not getting any more because SNK's in some financial problems, whatever. They said, but here's the customer service line at SNK. You can call them and see. Well, my mom and dad knew how much I wanted that game, and so they did me a solid, and they called SNK directly and ordered the game right from them, and they actually sold them a copy out of their warehouse, which I couldn't believe.
Nice.
Shipped it straight to my house. I still have it, complete box and all.
That's awesome.
The cartridge is, like I said, it's probably my Nintendo, but I have the box and stuff, the manual, all that stuff that came with it. That's probably the first box I actually saved because I remember how much I loved it playing at your house, and we could build, you could build your own team and have your own superstars and power up the guys different ways. So you could have a power hitter and then a speed runner and a good pitcher, a good reliever, that kind of thing.
That
Uh,
that was actually what made it appeal to me. I think going back to what we were talking about with Tecmo Bowl, and a lot of times a lot of sports games don't click with me is because I think I either want arcade elements like things like later on with like NBA Jam or NHL Hits and stuff. I like to have like a little bit more of a game, video game element to it than a simulation, or Baseball Stars where you get that sort of RPG esque element where you're getting you're earning the prestige points to kind of power up the individual players and create your fighting roster effectively.
yeah, you're customizing your team, and then there's no two teams will ever be exactly alike because of the way you customize them. It was actually a port from the arcade. I don't know if you knew this. It was actually on. It was one of the carts you could get for the Neo Geo
Oh,
in the
really?
arcades. So I played it in the arcade. I played it on the NES, and then, in fact, I liked it so much. I have it behind me. I liked it so much. I went out and bought. Let me see if I can find it. It's in this box. Oh, it is. I had it out today. I bought the second one because I was like, I like it so much.
Yes.
I'm gonna get this. If you notice, it's actually made by Roadstar because SNK had stopped publishing games at this point, so Roadstar got the rights to it and made the second one. The second one is terrible. It is awful. Okay. I love the first one. I figured I liked the second one. Nope. Didn't. I hated
I
it.
I don't recall there being too much difference in the second one. I remember they took out the women's team, right? And they changed maybe one or two other aspects, but I recall it being pretty similar though.
I don't. It was less customization. I think
Okay.
is what did it for me.
Okay.
I remember on the first one, I gotten to the point where I had like all but one of the guys were like the perfect person, where like you had 90 maximum prestige points that you could assign,
Right.
and those guys all had 90s except for like one dude. And I lent the cart to one of my friends, and when I got it back,
he
my
oh,
team was erased. I was like, dude, what are you doing? You erased my team. He goes, oh yeah, I had a problem with Nintendo. I hit the reset button a bunch of times, and then it worked. I was like, oh, you erased my cartridge, dude.
dude.
I was
It
like, you're
wasn't
never
me, by
going
the way,
to get it.
folks. It wasn't me.
No, 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 it wasn't Billy. Um,
I very
I,
rarely hit that reset button if I didn't have to.
yeah, so word to the
I,
wise, if you hit the reset button too much on a game that has save data, it will go away. It will vanish.
I know.
Um,
I know that Zelda save screen information is a lie. Don't hit the reset button.
um, anyway, it was that was the one I'm guessing that was the last one on your honorable mention list.
Yep. Yep. I was definitely gonna mention that if you didn't mention it, but I was 110% certain that it was gonna be included in your list
Yeah,
because that was.
as soon as you introduced me to that game, I mean, we must have
I
been
don't
10
remember
or
how I got introduced to that game because I don't think I mean, I have it, but I don't remember how I actually if I played it somewhere else and then got it afterwards as a gift or something. But or
I
just,
knew that you owned it.
I mean, I must have rented it or something. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of because I don't think anyone else had to lend it to or whatever at the time. So or lend it to me, I should say. So um, yeah, that was yeah. Definitely the better of the best of the baseball games. Again, I really like the customization elements to it, and added a little bit of silliness to it with some of the character faces. That would actually be one of those games where it'd be great if it
that
was
skinny long face dude.
yeah, if it was like a modern like indie game or something, because then like they could raise the level cap and stuff. You can get some ridiculous teams going and make it less because it wasn't really about being a simulation at that point. It's like if baseball was like that, then eventually after a few years, every team would be amazing, equally
Yep.
amazing. So okay. So that wraps up our NES list here. We'll try to go a little quicker with the Game Boy ones because there's a little less.
These ones should be like I have a lot more good positive
Yes.
memories with NES stuff.
All right, so now we'll take off. Now you're playing with Power
I had trouble finding five. Um,
because now we're gonna be playing with portable Power.
and I went a lot more a lot less. Um, everything's a lot more mainstream.
Yeah, I did go a little more mainstream with some of these ones again because uh, there's a lot of Game Boy games, but a lot of the most notable ones are either going to be part of franchises or were ports of NES games, or just weren't that notable, as themselves. Like they were okay at the time because they were pretty amazing at the time, but they were not. They're not ones that stand the test of time as much as as other games would. And it's a lot easier once you start getting to the Game Boy Color era when they start to figure out the hardware and what they could do with it a little bit more and stuff. So You know. Yeah, so we're gonna start off with number 5 with our black and white Roman numeral. The
What?
first one I have is Alleyway. Now I don't have a cartridge for this one because a lot of my
Oh, dude,
cartridges.
I, I almost picked that game. I had it in my hand. I was like, oh, this game is phenomenal.
Yeah, I thought I had all my Game Boy game cartridges here, but I have most of my Game Boy Color in advance, and I just have to have a couple strays that I'll show in a moment here. But Alleyway is with the main batch somewhere. But yeah, Alleyway is basically a breakout clone, but it was a really well done one. You get those bonus levels with like the Mario shapes and stuff that you can go through, and I think there was even like a link cable mode and stuff. So it was one of those kind of ones that, especially early on, most people had with their Game Boy. So it was a good two-player game with the link cable and stuff. So
I liked at the beginning of the board, Mario ran across the screen and jumped into the bar that goes across the bottom. He jumped in like he was the pilot. So
well,
that was
that's
always fun.
being late '80s or whatever. That's the point where they started like, okay, we can put Mario into everything now, even if he's not
Like,
even if a playable character. We'll make him the referee here. He can play golf. He
yep.
can be in the alleyway for some reason, and
Here's the Mario of all trades.
he breaks bricks. You break bricks. Hey, it's meant to be. So, so what do you got first? Or
Okay.
fifth?
We'll start with the one that I don't have handy.
Okay.
It's because my sister claims it was hers. So,
Mm-hmm.
I never ended up picking up my own copy of it because I would just steal hers all the time. And now here we are, 30 some years later. Uh, this one's actually called Balloon Kid. And I don't know if you've played it or not, but it is super enjoyable. It's a lot like Joust, except you're a kid floating on balloons. And don't let them break your balloons because if they break your balloons, you sink and fall to your death.
They I've played the NES version like on Virtual Console or maybe inside of the GameCube Animal Crossing. I believe it was one of the NES games available inside that game. I think that's where I first played it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I ever played it on the original cartridge though. But
Yeah,
I've played it there, and I've played like mini game versions and probably a WarioWare game or something, or NES Remix actually has it in there, as well as I think it's one of the games that has like the demo stages available on the Wii U with the Amiibo. What was it called? Amiibo Tap, I think it is, where you can just take an Amiibo and you can use each individual Amiibo to unlock demo stages from NES and SNES games.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it's free. It's a free download, and you can just it only locks one to each amiibo, so you have to use a different amiibo each time. But yeah,
That's cool.
so you could like go to like one could be locked to like Metroid, and so every time you tap it, you can go through like say 6 places inside Metroid. It's like okay, the first tap will take you to the beginning, the second tap will go to Ridley, the third one will go to Creed, and the fourth one will go to Mother Brain or something like that. So you can cycle through games, and I think Balloon Kid or Balloon Fight was one of those.
In fact, I have Balloon Fight on the NES. Yeah.
Sorry, you said Balloon Kid. I thought you were talking about Balloon Fight.
Yeah.
My bad.
No,
I was talking
Kid.
about Balloon Fight. I apologize. So
Yep. No, Balloon Kid.
Ignore me.
Yeah, that game. As soon as you said you wanted to do Game Boy, I'm like, I have to talk about Balloon Kid. Like, I spent so many hours on that game, and it didn't even apparently belong to me. My sister has it.
It's not like a variation of Balloon Fight.
It's similar. It's
Okay.
very similar to Balloon Fight. Yeah, it's just the portable version. I think they did a lot of what I picked actually is crossover titles, direct ports, either which way. And so I think what they did with that one was they took Balloon Fight and they called it Kid because it was like the kid system, right? It
Well,
was
it's the Game Boy. They had
right.
instead of having Mario World, you have Mario Land. I mean, I think Mario Land came first, but you get the idea.
Right.
Donkey Kong Country, Donkey Kong Land. They did stuff like that to make it be more portable or what have you.
Right.
Well, okay, so I guess a lot of what I said was still relevant to the game.
It's relevant.
Yeah,
it's relevant to the game. Yep.
Because and then you bring it to modern day, a lot of those abilities were put into Villager's capabilities in Smash Brothers.
For sure. Yep.
So,
I love to spam with
half of his set comes from Balloon Fight, and
Yep.
even I don't know if it's still in there or not, but when the Switch launched, some data miners found that secretly inside the machine they had, I believe, it was either I want to say it was Balloon Fight, but it might have just been Golf. It was one of those games. It might have been golf actually. Now that I think about it. Well, the reason I brought it up is because Iwata was actually involved in both games, and so they kind of included it somewhere in the system, hidden as sort of a gesture towards him after he passed away.
An homage. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, so yeah, I think it might have been golf actually. Now that I think about it, but he was definitely included in that because a lot of people I think put that he was involved in a few different titles. I think so. You can't access it anymore. I think they may have gotten rid of it, or they made it so you couldn't access it anymore. But that was like before they had any of the NES games on the Switch. So people were sort of like, "Oh, if you do this, but don't take the day one update, you can access this by hitting these buttons." So it was
Brian
like,
confirms it was golf.
yeah,
So
yeah. Oh, cool, excellent. Thank you, Brian.
All right.
Yeah. All right. Sorry. Okay, so my next one. I gotta change my numbers.
I'm gonna start taking these out of case. Everything I have is in cases.
What's this thing doing? Okay, that graphic is wrong. We'll move that out of the way. I think my number 4 is the wrong size because it's covering us now. So I'm gonna get rid of that. So this is number 4. I don't have my Roman numeral 4, which is from the Game Boy Mega Man games, which were titled with Roman numerals on the box as opposed to regular numbers to distinguish them. So that way you could kind of tell what was Mega Man 2 on the Game Boy versus Mega Man 2 on the NES. But so the next one I have is okay. This is where I start to cheat a little bit, but it's Donkey Kong.
Cheater.
But it's not it's not the original Donkey Kong though. And it is on. Let me see.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Yeah. So you do play as Mario, but it's not a Mario game, and it's not the original Donkey Kong game. But it is based on the game mechanics of the original Donkey Kong, just expanded and modernized with several levels. And it is and worth noting too that it looks like you have Pauline in there as well. So the mayor of New Donk City in Super Mario Odyssey got another. There she is.
She's in there.
Yeah, she's got a red dress. So actually, her design here kind of matches closer to what she has in her modern incarnation compared to what you see in the original DK game. But yeah, it was a fun expansion of the original gameplay, and a lot of, I think it's kind of overlooked a lot. You know, it was good. It's a good. I don't want to say it's a puzzle game necessarily, but platformer, a little bit more puzzle elements, different types of enemies. It was less about playing the same 3 types of levels over and over and over again, and just learning the tricks. It was a little more responsive in that regard. So
yeah, that was a good game. I enjoyed that one.
All right.
All right. Well, I got a complete in box game next, so let's take a look at the poster.
Nice.
Yeah. And now you're playing with portable power.
Yep. Hey, I updated the animated graphic if you look at the stream.
There you go. The other side. I mean, some cool stuff. This one I had as a kid. Picked it up complete. Someone traded it into the shop. I need to have sports games. I'm sorry. I think sports games are valid, especially on these older consoles. They're not like the new stuff where it's coming out every stinking year like Madden. This was by far my favorite racing game ever at the time, and probably to this day. I would definitely want to play this over most any other one. And it's called F1 Race. It was actually in a big box. You can see really fun. I mean, even for a black and white game, this was enjoyable. The reason I loved it so much was it had this handy dandy piece with it. And this is a 4-player adapter. And so it was one of the first games I ever got to play 4-player. Like, everyone would take their cord and plug it in. They'll plug one end into their system and then one end into this. And you have to sit in this little, like, half circle thing or whatever to make it work. And then you'd all have to have a copy of the game because back then that's how it worked. There was no downloading or anything. And so you'd play F1 Race together where you got to play against all your buddies instead of playing individualized. So,
which we never got a chance to really play that thing because I never actually owned that one.
You never owned it, but I now have 3 cables, this, and 4 copies of the games at my house.
If I bring my cable, then you're set.
Yeah, we're good. So anyway, really enjoyable racing game. Just not much else to say about it. It was fun. I played the heck out of it on car rides into New York City. So there you have it.
Yeah, it's cool that they were they basically like were marketing a hub basically.
Yeah. Yeah, the first USB hub right there.
Before the was it four score? Four what was it called? Four way?
They just say it's a new four-player adapter for up
Oh,
to
they don't have a
four-player.
name on. They don't have. I thought it had a name like four score or four way or.
That the four score was on NES,
Ah, okay, that's what it was.
wasn't it?
Just four player. See, they could have just put
Yeah,
in the box free hub.
yeah. They just call it
Asterisk, then
four-player
asterisk,
adapter.
hub may actually cost you more money.
Yep.
Okay, so now we'll go on to the third one. I got another one I got physically here. I got to take it out. I do have it in the case. So let me pop it open. This is another one where my sister will probably claim ownership of. I mean, and technically she's right. It was hers at Christmas or something. Oh my god! How do you... Oh wait. Okay, there we go. I remember. That's how you open those cases. All right. And I've got Tiny Toon Adventures Bab's Big Break.
Yeah, it's a good game.
So it's a platformer side scroller, and you get to play as some of the different characters from the Tiny Toon Adventures cartoon series, and it was actually pretty fun. The graphics were the sprites were pretty good size for the time, and yeah, in general, I ended up putting a lot of time into that one, even though it wasn't mine.
I played that one too. We had that one as kids.
Yeah,
It's sitting on my shelf back there
and I'm
somewhere.
sure some of the NES versions might be superior, but it was for a portable version, it was actually pretty tight.
Yep, it was a good game.
All right, what do you got next?
I got this one was released both on the Nintendo and the Game Boy. And if you've ever drank a 7 Up, you'll know what I'm talking about because this guy's a little spot. And so it was basically that tile game where you have to turn things your color. So every every spot started blank except the two corners, and it was in this version it was black and white, and you would jump around the board to try to collect as many spots as you could. Once the board filled, whoever had the most spots won the game. It was simple puzzle type game where you just had to play against the computer and hope that you collected more spots than they did. But it was enjoyable. We had it both. Actually, we had it both on the Game Boy and the Nintendo growing up. I remember my parents uh, my parents bought us each one. I think I think Jen got that one and I got the NES one, or the other way around. I don't know how I ended up. I have both of them. I don't know how I ended up with both of them, but
Oh, I remember the spot game, the cool spot games coming out kind of all around the same time, and I think I actually played the Genesis one the most because my next door neighbor had that one, so we got a chance to play that one the most. Although I think I did rent I think there was a Super Nintendo one. I'm trying to remember if there was. I might be
well, that's
confusing the
that's
two.
that's around the time that Seven Up was using the Spot guy in all their commercials.
Right. Well, everyone had a
So
mascot back then, so
yeah, he was a huge part of pop culture at that
it,
time.
it,
So
it was the age of the mascot, the Noid and that, and then on video games you had, you know, Bubsy and everyone trying to get their own sort of video game character to compete with Mario and Sonic. I did it. Oh no, Mario and Sonic. Uh,
Mario, see, I'm getting to you.
nah, nah. Just my mouth got stuck there for a second. So
Yeah,
when your mouth malfunctions, you say it wrong. So yeah, that explains everything. Well, speaking of Mario, it's kind of difficult to talk about the Game Boy without mentioning this one. Oh, by the way, since we are talking about the Game Boys, yeah.
you still got your graphics on yours. Wow.
Yeah, I had Nintendo Power and I had to use the stickers, so it was unfortunately. So, but at least we was able to tell my sisters and mine apart. This was mine and this was hers. So, I didn't have the heart to take them off. I did eventually take the stickers off my Super Nintendo controllers though, because those eventually started getting in the way. So thankfully I washed those off. But yeah, these are the original ones, and they still work. They are. Yeah, but they still got their little caps in there for the port and stuff. So
Everyone lost those. Jeez.
so, where was I? Oh yes. So this one I went with Dr. Mario. I know it's a little bit more of a it's got Mario in it, but it's a puzzle game, and I don't want to mention Tetris because everyone's gonna have Tetris. Dr. Mario, probably the second. There you go.
Honorable mention for me.
Yeah, I mean that. I mean the NES version was great too. So like they was side by side though, but because of that, it's actually kind of funny. I kind of associate Dr. Mario more with the Game Boy, or sorry, the NES, whereas with Tetris you associate more with the Game Boy, even though they both had ports on both systems.
Yep.
So they sort of complemented each other in that regards. But yeah, me, my sister, and my father, there was a big competition between both Tetris and Dr. Mario.
Oh, I
Well, actually,
remember.
Tetris for the three of us, but me and my sister were definitely Dr. Mario. And she's one of the few games where she's consistently better than me in two-player. Although I think I can still get a better high score. Just my technique does not go well against the competitive mode. So, all right. So that was mine number two.
All right, we'll do this one next. This one was absolutely one of my favorites, and I know it's mine from a long time ago because it has my name written on it in Sharpie. This is called World Bowling. Um, Billy understands why it was one of my favorites because that's all I used to do when I was a kid.
I am not
Um,
surprised that it's included.
this is actually a direct port, believe it or not, from the NES game called Championship Bowling. So figured I'd include that little tidbit. But phenomenal game. I took that everywhere, played it a lot. This is probably the game I had logged the most hours into as a kid, only because I traveled a bunch because my grandparents lived in New York City, so we were in the car all the time, driving back and forth. And that my mom's like, "Okay, you can bring one game with you." I'm like, "Cool, I guess I'm bringing bowling." It was that or F1 race, and those were the two games I brought, depending on how I was feeling that weekend when we left. So,
It's a portable system with easily swappable cartridges, and they only let you take one game.
yeah, they didn't want to get lost,
Oh,
so
all right.
yeah,
Saying it kind of defeats the purpose, though. It's like,
yeah, it's okay. You know,
okay.
I didn't have a fancy carrying case or anything like that. I had the system, and the system was such a brick that if you lost the system, you were a real dummy. So,
Well, eventually you had to get a case or something. Otherwise, you had to carry around the light and the magnifier and
yeah,
the
yeah.
headphones and the cable jack and extra batteries.
All right, you want to roll through the honorable mentions real quick?
Well, I don't have actually. I don't have any honorable mentions really, because they'd all be obvious ones. But maybe I'll roll through some of them then. I guess if they don't steal any of them. But I was gonna say, just we'll go outside of our restrictions here a little bit and just say like, okay, obvious ones. Super Mario Land 2 is just an underrated game. We were talking about there being Mario ports. I think they somehow managed to make a better Mario World clone with Mario Land 2 on the Game Boy than the kids did on the NES, which I think had more power, which did have more power or what have you than more colors available. And also, you know, Zelda, Zelda 4, no, Link's Awakening is just an incredible game that
In
still
fact, they
holds up.
colorized that too.
Yeah, they re-released it as the DX version, but
Yeah.
even if it's an original one, there was it had a little bit of story to it that had some emotion to it with the music. And I remember always like if I had some spare time, I would go up to Marin in the town square, just have her sing her song for a little bit or whatever, because you get a little nice little sad chip tune music play. And but the game itself was it started off as a port of Link to the Past and became its own thing and expanded on it and gave you some really cool abilities and a few Mario cameos in there, which made it an amusing thing. It being set in a dream world. You had Wart, which was also a dream world from Mario 2. So nice little nods and crossovers in that regard. So yeah, that'd be about all I would have as far as honorable mentions go. There's so many other things on the Game Boy that
There's a lot.
like everything
So,
tends to be like oh, here's a prequel to Ninja Gaiden that was actually based on a different game, and here's a Final Fantasy Adventure which is really a Secret of Mana prequel, and it's like it goes on and on from there. So
well, I only have two left because you stole one,
oh,
which is fine. Dr. Mario is phenomenal.
okay, that's right.
Um,
I don't feel
but I
bad about
played
that.
this a lot as a kid. Was Turtles: Fall of the Foot Clan, which was enjoyable.
Ultra.
Weird to play in black and white because I never knew which turtle I had until I used the weapon. Uh,
Well, well, the box for the original game on the NES had them all with the original comic book. All wore red, so it's really true to the original experience in that regards.
yeah, and what's the system? You called it in the NES version, and I'll call it in the Game Boy version. But what's a system without planes and
There
Battletoads?
you go.
This was just as difficult as the NES version.
That was my first
Um,
question.
maybe a little more frustrating because it's in black and white and a little hard to see, but enjoyable nonetheless. So, there you
All right, well, let's just start going towards the wrap up here. We'll get our number one, or at least last entry in for our list here of our portable power. And I have down, again, this is getting towards the upper tier of the Nintendo stuff, but not, I think, outright cheating because it was underrated or overlooked for so long because of the platform it was available on. That was Metroid 2, The Return of Samus.
I had that one in my hand. I almost put that on my list.
Yeah, I mean,
But
it's
we didn't coordinate this at all. Like, that's amazing that I was able to say no. I don't want to put this in there. No, and then you pick it.
well, I kind of did. I was trying to find something else. Like, I mean, I love this game, and like I said, it's hard to overlook. Like I said, but I think it's overlooked enough that it can still count because I'm not trying to be too strict about it and stuff. But it is, yeah. I mean, I think it's superior to the original game. It established a lot of lore that Super Metroid built upon afterwards, and it has a different kind of mechanic to it than some of the other Metroid games. But they sort of revised that with Samus's Return on 3DS that came out a year or so ago, I believe. I have it somewhere here, I think, or I did. Where are you? Maybe not over here. I might have actually put a game away for once.
Yay, cleaning
Yeah,
up.
I know, right? Okay, okay. So, yeah. So they sort of updated it then finally, but it was always kind of overlooked because not people. It was never really re-released that much. I think you might have been able to get it on Virtual Console for 3DS possibly. But anyways, yeah, it's definitely something that's worth checking out either in this version or the update. I mean, the update probably is more exciting at this point, but the other one had a nice feature to it, and it's worth noting that it is Metroid 2 is the reason why Samus has those round shoulder pads and stuff now in all the games, the Various suit, because in the original Metroid game, whenever she got upgrades, they would just change the color of her suit. But with on the Game Boy, you can't change colors, so they actually had to give her a physical sprite change upgrade or what have you, so you could tell the difference between the different suits that she got. So the whole reason that she has her iconic suit now, the Various suit, is the whole reason that she has this reflection, this suit right here, is because they needed to make her distinguishable when she got her upgrades as she's fighting these guys. So it has the game that most people overlooked had huge impact on the franchise to this day. Don't fall over. Okay, cool. All right. And
Yeah, it was a fun game. It was good. All right. My last one is another direct port. Um, I think you'll enjoy the title. Um, I spent hours on this on the NES, and I spent a little bit of time on the Game Boy. I didn't play it so much on the Game Boy because I spent so much time playing it on the NES. But this is Star Wars, and I couldn't have two lists in my hands without going for a Star Wars game. So it is literally a direct port in black and white of the game that is on the original Nintendo. You can see that's leading up. That little scene right here is what leads up to the sand crawler when you're driving around Tatooine. Which
yeah, I got to play the NES version at your house a lot. I remember.
mm-hmm. Yeah, that game was always in my Nintendo. I was obsessed with it. Um, I had like 13 NES games growing up, so it was easy to be obsessed with almost all of them because there wasn't a lot of variety in my life. It's not like now I have a couple hundred sitting behind me, so
Yeah,
it's a little hard.
yeah. The I didn't have the any of the NES Star Wars titles, but I had
It's only two. It's only that and Empire.
right. So
Jedi never came
I did
out.
have the Empire Strikes Back on Atari 2600, so that was sort of my early Star Wars game, and then eventually got the Super NES Super Star Wars and so on,
Yep.
and those kind of took the spotlight over. It's like, oh, you have that NES game? That's cool, but the Super Nintendo one's over here. Let's go play that one.
Yeah, we spent a lot of hours on that Super Nintendo.
Yeah. But that'll be the discussion for another time with the
I don't
Switch
know how I'm going to
trilogy.
make a Super Nintendo list. Let's be honest here. There's way too many good games on the Super Nintendo to down select like that.
Yeah.
So
Well, we'll save that for another off week when you're not doing a sale. We'll space these out so we don't bore people for the next month and a half going through the history of video games.
yeah,
When all they want is stuff from you, man.
yeah.
Except for Brian.
I got
Brian's cool. He's here for the love of the game.
yep. I got to find it. Bryant will be a lot.
Brian and I guess Jonathan's still here too. I guess I can't.
Brian will be much more active next time with the Super Nintendo games because he'll have a lot more to say because that's what he collects primarily for. So,
Cool.
all right, that'll do it for us. I gotta hit the hay. I gotta be up early, get the kids off to school, and
Yeah, I gotta be up in like 6 hours too. So
you probably need to get up for work and whatever. But hey, we appreciate everyone swinging in and hanging out with us for the evening. If you like this kind of content, please let me know. It's something we can continue. Just trying to shake it up a little. I want to make sure that it's not always a sale. It's not always me playing games. I want to try something a little different here so that everyone can try to get involved and enjoy the conversation here.
yeah, no, it was like I said, it's just fun to talk about games and give some people something to focus on, and you know, we got get a little bit of conversation going, and even if people are just tuning in after the fact, there's a little more enjoyable, I think, for the people who might check this out later on,
Yep.
hopefully, and
We may not be famous YouTubers yet, but maybe you'll take some of these suggestions and at least try the games. They're all worth playing. I know from my list I enjoy all my games, and from what Billy said, I know I enjoy all those ones too. So uh, definitely check them out. Make it a point if you can. We have don't forget we have the Nintendo Classic and Super Classic at Homegrown. They're free to play, so you can go check out. There's 30 games on each of those, and in fact, some of these titles are on those. And then, if we run an event and you want to see some of these games, you want to try them out. I held up most of them. I have most of the ones that Billy talked about. So let me know and I can bring them and we can just do a demo day maybe for an event. That might be fun. Try some things that you've never played, get some experience and time behind the controller. It's always good to try new things.
yeah. So thanks everyone again for stopping by here, and we'll probably do the next generation of Nintendo games. Not next week, I don't think. Right? Probably.
I don't know. I've got to root around and see if I got some more cool stuff to sell. We'll see. We don't want to do this every week. We want to mix it up a little. So
Exactly. Yeah, we're probably not gonna do this again next week, but we'll spread them out, or once every few weeks or once a month or something like that. Whatever. This way we can get them going. Whatever. But
yep. Hope everyone enjoyed the video.
yeah.
If you need anything from me, just shoot a message over to the page, and we'll get you all taken care of.
Yeah. Good night, folks.
Good night.